The Ass and the Mule, story number 50 in this rendition of Aesop's Fables by George Fyler Townsend on Gutenberg.org. Okay, so the Ass and the Mule. So a muleteer set forth on a journey, driving before him an ass and a mule, both well laden. The ass, as long as he traveled along the plain, carried his load with ease, but when he began to ascend the steep path of the mountain, felt his load to be more than he could bear. He entreated his companion to relieve him of a small portion that he might carry home the rest, but the mule paid no attention to the request. Okay, so let's go over this. So, a muleteer, assuming, it's like a musketeer, right? Or a mouseketeer. So a muleteer is someone that rides a mule, and that, this is a little bit different, right? Because a mouseketeer is like a mouse that's celebrating. This isn't actually a mule. This is actually a person. So we have a person who basically is on this journey, and he drives before him an ass and a mule. So he's probably like whipping them, and they're in I don't know if they're in a carriage or not. We don't know for sure, but he's driving before him. So I'm assuming there's some kind of carriage device that Aesop doesn't make explicitly clear, but I think it's implied. Now, let's just imagine he could be walking behind them, and just like whipping them, to walk behind them. And they're both well laden. There's an ass, which is a donkey, obviously, and a mule. So the ass, as long as he traveled along the plain, carried his load with ease, which makes sense, right? A flat sort of ground, a plain ground, carried it easily. But when he began to ascend to go up the steep path of the mountain, he felt his load to be more than he could bear, which makes sense. He entreated his companion, so he asked his companion, he implored, he requested, he humbly beseeched his companion to relieve him of a small portion that he might carry home the rest. To relieve him, right? To take on some of his own weight, a portion of his load, so that he could carry home the rest without problem. But the mule paid no attention to the request. So the mule essentially ignores the ass. The ass shortly afterwards fell down dead under his burden. Oof. Aesop's got pretty stark stories. But they really teach us lessons about relationships and about making good decisions, etc. Good thought processes versus perhaps questionable thought processes. What are the consequences of this action? So, not knowing what else to do in so wild a region, assuming saying wild a region, what does that wild a region mean? Well, it could mean wild in terms of what the terrain looks like, right? Because if we're thinking about the problems that an ass and a mule might have just, traversing this place or this region, you're thinking about that could be wild. So kind of a wild terrain. You got rocky mountains, you got valleys, you got steep hills and cliffs, etc. Or not, they're not going to walk over a cliff, but like they have very potentially rocky and mountainous terrain where there's a lot of steep slopes, and that might be harder to carry a load. Wild could also mean a lot of wild animals that might come after them and kill them, that are more predator animals than, say, the ass and the mule. Well, now the ass is dead, so now we've got the mule. So, actually, talking about the muleteer. So this is actually about the muleteer. So not knowing what else to do in so wild a region, the muleteer placed upon the mule the load carried by the ass in addition to his own, and on top of all placed the hide of the ass after he had skinned him. So it could be anything in terms of the wild region. So when you're thinking about what words might mean, think about the context of where those words show up and what multiple meanings might fit that specific word. So wild could be wild animals running around, and they might kill the muleteer and the mule. Or it could be maybe even wild people running around who might kill them and take their load. Maybe there's an expensive load. Maybe there's a bunch of, expensive gold coins in these loads. I mean, we don't know what are in these loads yet, right? Or it could also obviously mean a wilder region. It could mean multiple things. It could mean 2 or 3 of these, or possibly more. But I'm thinking these are the 3 main ones. And the other thing is it's a sort of a wild terrain, where the muleteer's worried, right? He has all this load. He doesn't want his mule to then die also, because then he probably can't carry this load all by himself. So he needs at least the mule to get this stuff across this region. So what the muleteer does is he placed upon the mule the load carried by the ass in addition to his own. In addition to his own, meaning the mule. So he put so now he's got double the work. Right, the mule has double the work. The one who ignored the ass who said, "Hey, can you just help me out a little bit?" Now he's got double the work. He might have had 10% more or 20% more, and now he's got 100% more. So, assuming that they both have the same weight, let's assume that the ass and the mule are both carrying the same amount of weight. So, and at the top of all, place the hide of the ass. So now, not only do you have 100% more load, Mr. Mule, or Miss Mule, but it's actually Mr. Mule. These are both he. So these are all, depicted as males. So Mr. Mule. So now he has to take on 100% more weight. Let's just make an assumption there, like approximation. And then also even more than that, because now he has to carry the hide of the ass, as it has now been skinned by the muleteer. Now the mule, groaning beneath his heavy burden, said to himself, "I am treated according to my deserts. Not deserts, deserts. If I had only been willing to assist the ass a little in his need, I should not now be bearing, together with his burden, himself as well." So, definitely true. So, essentially, the mule said, "Look, I am treated according to my deserts." So my deserts, I take this as meaning sort of my negative personality traits, right? He had a negative personality trait that made him ignore the request, the sort of friendly request and humble request that we're seeing that the ass made for him to please take a little bit more of this weight. Because obviously, a lot of times people don't complain until it's way down the road. They're not complaining. There are some who don't complain until way down the road. So he waited until afterwards. So that's how I take the word deserts. His sort of the desert of his negative personality trait of ignoring the needs of others. Because now he has to bear together with his burden, right, with the ass's load. Now you got to carry all of that ass's load, the donkey's load, on your back, on top of your own load. But himself as well, right? Like his hide, his skinned hide is now on top of this mule's back as well. So the ass and the mule, let's be good friends. Let's not always look to take or to see what we can get out of somebody. It helps in myriad ways in life to help each other with no hope of gain. Because the gain, if he'd done that, would have been not having to carry this much more onerous burden on his back. So, good story. Very helpful for friends, loved ones, as well as just strangers we come across in the streets. Thank you very much.